So,
Écoutez, je vais vous donner quelques exemples. OK? Quand on dit que Avios avait un contrat garanti avec Air Canada pour toute sa maintenance, jusqu'à un certain point, oui. D'un autre point, non. Si on regarde, je vous ai parlé tantôt que toute la flotte des moteurs des 777, Avios n'a fait aucun investissement pour les faire. Quand je vous parle que le futur présentement pour les moteurs, c'était les Embraer, où c'est qu'il y a plus de 60 avions avec 2 moteurs, jamais Avios n'a voulu investir. Écoutez, quand on est en partenaire d'affaires puis qu'on veut faire de l'ouvrage, puis qu'on refuse de faire cet ouvrage-là, écoutez, là, il y a des avions qui étaient envoyés en dehors. Là. On est capable, on a l'expertise, on est les meilleurs au monde, puis c'est pas ça qui se passe. Là.
just to clarify, I didn't suggest that Avios had all of Air Canada's maintenance. I'm suggesting that 90% of the maintenance that Avios did came from Air Canada, which is a quantitatively different.
Écoutez, mais ça, c'est des chiffres lancés. On a-tu la preuve de ça, que 90% de la maintenance était faite seulement d'Air Canada? On sait qu'au niveau des avions dans les hangars, peut-être, mais on faisait des avions. La Défense nationale. On faisait laissez-moi, je veux juste répondre à votre question, s'il vous plaît. On faisait des avions d'Air Transat. Au niveau du centre d'entretien moteur, on a beaucoup de contrats qui viennent de d'autres compagnies. Écoutez, là, quand on me lance 90%, montrez-moi des chiffres concrets, là, parce que moi, je ne ferai pas ça. Là.
I have to stop it there. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to go over some of what we've been told so far. First, the government will not let us question Avios, so we can't ask these questions that we're trying to indirectly get about how Avios managed to collapse through you. The government also won't let some of you talk when it comes to monetary issues. The investors that bought the equipment. The equipment still exists, so the government is suggesting Avios burn through $1 billion of money, and that's actually not true because the equipment still exists. Nobody burned through anything. They paid their employees a bunch of money over the course of however long they were there, and those investors are probably going to be first in line to get their money back ahead of the employees. Certainly the employees have nothing at the moment, not even EI. The minister got a legal opinion that runs contrary to everything this government has said. Both Liberal and Conservative governments over the past, since 1998, have all said, it can't happen. What just happened can't happen. It won't happen. And now the minister says, it happened. Oops. Oops isn't good enough, I don't think, for you folks or for the 2,600 people you represent. Oops is not acceptable to us, shouldn't be acceptable to the government, and the answer clearly appears to be that Air Canada has done everything it can to shed itself of expensive labor. That's really what seems to be going on to us on this side, that Air Canada's statement to us during the hearing on Thursday was that they signed a deal that was favorable to Avios. So if it's favorable to Avios, it's not favorable to Air Canada. If it's not favorable to Air Canada, I'd want to get out of that deal as quickly as I could. So it makes sense that Air Canada would stop sending planes to Avios in order to starve them. That appears to be what went on, but we'll never know because the government won't let us question Avios. Now we're sort of, everybody here seems to be grasping at straws to say, what, can we find another investor? Can we find another player to try and take over this equipment? The equipment is sitting there. Air Canada is not using it. Avios isn't using it. The government is sitting on its hands saying, gee, it's not our problem. It's a private issue between two private players, and the law has no teeth, has no meaning as far as the government is concerned, despite statements over many years saying, this will never happen. Don't worry, it'll never happen. So what should have happened when the government first became aware that Avios was running into trouble with Air Canada, and they assured us, don't worry, nothing will happen? What should this government have done to ensure that Air Canada lived up to the spirit of the law, which was that this work would stay in Canada, in Winnipeg, Toronto, or Mississauga, and Montreal?
I'll speak to this a little bit and a few things that came here. Back to one of the original comments that was made by the member over here in his first questions, and he asked about why was Avios not mentioned in the Act, why are the IAM not mentioned in the Act? And I think that some of what this questioning and where we are proved exactly what Avios was created to do, and that was to become a little bit of a red herring. and do exactly what you suggested, and that was to allow Air Canada to shed itself of labor and labor costs. I saw some media reports from some Air Canada executives last week that suggested they were willing to and would love to keep the work in Canada, but attached to that was a quote that said it at globally competitive rates. We understand that licensed aircraft engineers in Central America at $500 a month. So for somebody working a 40-hour work week in Canada, that equates to just over $3 an hour. So I certainly hope that that's not a suggestion Air Canada is making, that that's what it would take to keep those jobs in Canada. We view Avios, Air Canada maintenance, as a turnkey operation. You've exactly hit it. The facilities are there, the workers are there, the skills are there. All it needs is a willingness for somebody to go in, unlock the door, turn on the lights. This is an operation that can be up and running in 72 hours, literally in 72 hours, to get these people back to work and do this maintenance. So essentially what we're doing, and what do we want from the government? We came here basically looking for leadership from this government on an issue that they are the entity in Canada that has the sole responsibility to make this happen. Air Canada is a federally regulated transport carrier. It is the national airline. It was a Crown corporation. It was privatized under the Public Participation Act. And there was a spirit to that act and an intent to that act to make it an airline that worked for Canada and that had Canadians working for it. And that is why we are here.
Thank you. Mr. Adler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank all of the witnesses for being here today. I know this can't be an easy time for any of you or your membership, but you know, I just want you to know that I'm sure I can speak on behalf of all members when we can say that any job loss in this country is just one too many, and you know, that's why we as a government have a plan in place to create jobs and economic growth and long-term prosperity. So I just want you to. I just wanted to say that. You had indicated in your remarks that you have been in touch with other levels of government in your effort to try to come to an equitable resolution to all of this for everyone concerned. In your discussions with provincial and municipal levels, what kind of discussions have transpired, and what have they come forward with, if anything?
If you'd like me to respond, I was in Victoria on Tuesday with a delegation of 57 of our members that we took over. We met with both the official opposition and the Liberal government, the BC government. And basically the message we took is this was an important issue for British Columbia, it was an important issue for Canada, and that this had to be done in a non-partisan way. We weren't interested in coming to Victoria to get into politics and Liberals, NDP, Conservatives. This was something that all of the parties had to rise above, and we simply were looking for the ability to put the stakeholders together and work towards a solution. So what we did was we asked for the support of the government to stand up. We felt it was especially significant in British Columbia because Vancouver is not mentioned specifically in the Air Canada Public Participation Act. At the time in history when Air Canada was privatized, Vancouver was the main base for Canadian Airlines.
I'm sorry. I apologize, but
I'll cut it short.
Is there just any substantive proposals that came forth from?
We didn't have substantive proposals. Okay. What we asked was, would they come to Ottawa and work with us and work with the federal government to try and get a national solution? And the commitment we got from the 83 MLAs in Victoria was yes, they would.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Has the union considered buying into the company?
We haven't specifically, and again, this was a question that was asked by the government in BC, and we haven't got that far down any particular road. But we don't out of hand rule out any situation. We simply want to get people together. There has to be a solution. I refuse to believe that there's not a solution that the people in this country can't come up with to make this work. And so I don't rule anything out of hand. Everything would have to be looked at in context.
Okay. Now, at the time that Avios was spun off from Air Canada, was the bargaining unit, was your bargaining unit in favor of that or against it?
No, 100%. I can say unequivocally to a person opposed.
Opposed. Okay.
We foresaw exactly what has happened today. We foresaw this as a chance to get rid of our members off of the books, their benefits, their pensions, and to ultimately just push them aside.
Okay. Now, if you were the federal minister of transport, I'm just wondering what would be your solution to this? If you could make a ruling right now, what would that be?
Well, that's, you know, we come back to, we talked to, originally we started here about legal opinions. And so legal opinions are all over the map. I think that some of the members on the committee on this side had a very valid point about making the law say what it was supposed to say, to beef it up to some extent. This to us simply is about keeping Canadian expertise, Canadian jobs, Canadian work in Canada. And I don't want to get tied up in the ideology of what's a corporate name or whether it's a union, you know, if there's a union represents the workers. These are 2,600 families that woke up this morning wondering how they're going to feed their kids and how they're going to pay their mortgages. And that is our prime concern, and that's why we're here. Time is of the essence. Workers need to be paid. Facilities are sitting while things are being tied up in bankruptcy courts and kind of in a hold. And like I said, we view this as a turnkey operation, and so the sooner we can turn the lights back on and get people back to work, the better it is for everybody, including Air Canada.
How much time do I have left, Chair?
Seconds.
Oh, you mentioned that bailout would be one option. I understand that. But should the government be there to bail out every private company that happens to mismanagement or whatever reason where a lot of workers happen to be displaced? Should that be the number one priority, or?
We're not looking for a bailout. That's not, in my opinion, that's not what we came here. We're simply looking to get a business climate and to facilitate from the government what they can to make this work for all the parties. And from what I understand from the Conservative agenda, they're a business-friendly, party. That's what they want to do. And so, as I said, there has to be a solution within this country to make it where I refuse to believe that we're not smart enough in this country to figure out how to do this work in Canada. It's been done for 75 years. We didn't lose this ability in 6 months.